In May 2025, a single Colt revolver sold for $1.645 million at a Rock Island Auction Company event in Texas. That's not a typo. One single gun, a single Action Army revolver dubbed Black Beauty, featuring master engraving by Louis D. Nimschke and a gold inlaid monogram for Mexican President Manuel Gonzalez, crossed the $1 million mark. Nobody in that auction hall could believe what they were hearing. Number 7. Colt Cobra. The Colt Cobra showed up in 1950, and it was revolutionary for its time. Built on Colt's compact D-frame, the Cobra utilized an aluminum alloy frame to drastically reduce weight, making it a simple, lightweight .38 special designed for plainclothes detectives and undercover cops who needed something they could carry all day without breaking their backs. It was designed as a utilitarian workhorse, not a safe queen, but the market dynamics changed. Around 5 years ago, serious collectors started paying closer attention to older Cobras, specifically the first issue vintage models from 1950 through 1972. These early models, easily identified by their exposed ejector rods before Colt introduced the heavy shrouded barrels in 1973, have become highly sought-after artifacts of mid-century American law enforcement history. A vintage first issue Colt Cobra in good condition right now fetches between $800 and $1,500, depending heavily on the year of manufacture, the exact caliber, and how well the original anodized finish has been preserved. That is a massive jump for a revolver that used to languish in used gun cases for $300. While the standard .38 special models are climbing steadily, the much rarer Cobras chambered in .22 LR or .32 New Police Command significant premiums, sometimes doubling the price of a standard model. Collectors aren't just buying a piece of metal, they are buying an authentic piece of hard-boiled detective history from an era when six-shooters were the absolute standard. The Cobra's climb is steady, driven by nostalgia and a rapidly shrinking supply of well-preserved examples. Because they were carried daily by working police officers, many Cobras suffered severe finish wear, meaning pristine examples are exceedingly rare. A $1,000 Cobra today could easily hit $1,400 or $1,600 by 2027. It won't buy you a private island, but it represents a rock-solid return if you are holding one. As collector demand stays strong and the supply of excellent condition first-issue models dries up, the Cobra's upward trend shows absolutely no signs of stopping. Number 6. Colt Diamondback. The Diamondback arrived in 1966, designed as a scaled-down companion to the legendary Python. Built on the smaller D-frame, it was intended for target shooters, small game hunters, and collectors who wanted Python-level quality in a more compact package. For decades, the broader market mostly ignored the Diamondback. It wasn't the flagship .357 Magnum snake gun, so it sat squarely in the shadows while the Python got all the glory. But the modern collector market finally woke up. They realized that original Diamondbacks, featuring the same gorgeous ventilated rib barrel, target sights, and wide hammer spur as their bigger brother, are actually incredibly hard to find, largely because Colt discontinued them in 1988 and, critically, has never reintroduced a modern version. Right now, a Colt Diamondback in very good to excellent condition runs between $1,500 and $3,500. The pricing variance comes down to caliber and barrel length. While a standard 4-inch .38 special Diamondback might sit near the $1,500 mark, the highly coveted .22 LR versions frequently cross the $2,500 threshold. Furthermore, the incredibly rare 2.5-inch snub-nosed Diamondbacks, famously carried by Steve McQueen in the 1968 classic film Bullet and John Wayne in Brannigan, can command absolute top dollar, easily breaching $3,500 when paired with their original factory boxes. These are the years when Colt was hand-fitting actions, and a vintage Diamondback boasts a tight cylinder lockup and a glass-smooth trigger pull that modern production guns struggle to replicate. What is driving the Diamondback now is the Python effect. When Python values skyrocketed out of reach for average buyers, collectors pivoted to the next best vintage snake gun. The Diamondback is riding that massive wave, serving as the premium, yet slightly more accessible, alternative. But that window of accessibility is closing fast. By 2027, a high-quality .22 LR or a 2.5-inch Diamondback could easily hit $4,000 to $4,500. It is a genuine sleeper in the Colt lineup that most casual buyers overlook, which is exactly why smart money is buying them up right now. Number 5. Colt King Cobra. The King Cobra showed up in 1986, but contrary to popular belief, it wasn't just a bigger Python. It was built on Colt's modern V-frame, a medium-large platform specifically engineered to handle a steady, punishing diet of full-power .357 Magnum ammunition. It featured a thick, solid barrel rib and a heavy, full-length underlug. For a while, traditionalists weren't sure what to make of it. It lacked the hand-honed leaf spring action of the classic Python, utilizing a more modern coil spring setup instead. But the King Cobra eventually proved itself as an incredibly durable, reliable, and smooth-shooting workhorse. Over time, collectors realized that original production King Cobras from the 1986 to 1992 run were becoming increasingly scarce. An original vintage King Cobra today sells for $1,500 to $2,500, depending on condition, barrel length, and finish. While Colt reintroduced a modern version of the King Cobra in 2019, purists demand the vintage models. The stainless steel versions from the late 1980s are highly desirable because they hold up remarkably well. But the true unicorn of the King Cobra family is the blued model. Colt produced very few King Cobras with their famous royal blue finish before switching almost entirely to stainless steel. Today, a pristine blued King Cobra with its original box and paperwork can easily push past $3,000. Collectors demand documentation. If you can prove the gun is an untouched factory original blued model, buyers will aggressively bid up the price. The King Cobra's value is accelerating entirely due to supply constraints. Original V-frame production models from the 1980s are gone, and not all of them survived the decades in collector-grade condition. Many were carried in harsh weather or shot extensively. The ones that survived with pristine finishes and tight lockups are suddenly commanding serious collector money. By 2027, a decent vintage stainless King Cobra could easily sit at a baseline of $2,500, while the rare blued models could break the $4,000 mark. The original King Cobra was an over-engineered tank of a revolver, and the modern collector market is finally rewarding that durability with skyrocketing valuations. Number 4. Colt Anaconda. The Anaconda arrived on the market in 1990, stepping into a completely different weight class. Built on Colt's massive new frame, the Anaconda was a dedicated large-bore powerhouse chambered in .44 Magnum and eventually the legendary .45 Colt. It was the largest double-action revolver Colt had ever produced, specifically designed for handgun hunting and bringing down serious big game. Because it was a heavy, specialized tool, fewer shooters bought them compared to .357 Magnums. Production of the original Anaconda ceased in 2003. That lack of massive commercial production volume created a profound rarity that is paying off in a huge way for current owners. Right now, an original 1990s Anaconda in very good condition sells for $2,500 to $4,500. This market is moving incredibly fast. In the last 5 years, original Anacondas have effectively doubled in value. While Colt did release a redesigned Anaconda in 2021, rather than hurting the vintage market, the new release actually fueled it by drawing massive attention back to the Anaconda nameplate. Purists immediately sought out the older original frame models. Furthermore, while the .44 Magnum versions are highly prized, the Anacondas chambered in .45 Colt are the true collector gems. Because they were produced in much smaller numbers, a pristine 1990s Anaconda in .45 Colt can easily command a $1,000 premium over its .44 Magnum sibling. Condition is everything when it comes to pricing the Anaconda. Even though they were built from rugged stainless steel, any surface scratches, cylinder drag lines, or signs of hard use will immediately cut into the collector value. But a perfectly clean, safe Queen example from 1993 with the original blue plastic hard case can easily hit $5,000 at auction today. By 2027, top condition original Anacondas could confidently sit in the $6,000 to $7,500 range. The Anaconda was always a niche specialist gun, but in the elite collector market, specialists are exactly the people with the deepest pockets. This big-bore revolver is unequivocally one of the hottest climbing assets in the entire Colt snake gun lineup. Number 3. Colt Boa. The Boa is the undisputed holy grail of modern Colt double-action revolvers. In 1985, Colt made a highly unusual decision. Working exclusively with the distributor Lou Horton, Colt decided to build a strictly limited run of a brand new premium snake gun. Mechanically, the Boa was a fascinating hybrid. Colt took the world-renowned ventilated rib barrel of the Python and mated it directly to the heavy-duty action and frame of the Trooper Mark V. They manufactured exactly 1,200 of them. That was it. 600 were produced with 4-inch barrels and 600 were produced with 6-inch barrels. Once the run was finished, the tooling stopped. No more Boas were ever manufactured, instantly creating one of the most mythic heirloom firearms of the late 20th century. Today, an original Colt Boa in excellent condition is worth between $25,000 and $40,000. That is not an exaggeration. We are talking about the price of a luxury car or a house down payment, and the ceiling keeps rising. Just 3 years ago, a pristine Boa might have hammered for $15,000. Today, finding one under $20,000 is virtually impossible. The Boa climbs faster than almost anything else in the industry, strictly because of its absolute, mathematically defined rarity. Only 1,200 exist globally. Once you subtract the guns that were fired extensively, damaged, or lost to time, the market is left with perhaps 300 to 400 examples in truly pristine, unfired, collector-grade condition. That extreme scarcity drives high-end auction bidders into absolute bidding wars. Every single year, the owners holding these Boas understand exactly what they possess. Collectors who astutely purchased them for $2,000 or $3,000 2 decades ago are now holding a massively appreciated asset. Furthermore, a consecutive serial number set, one 4-inch and one 6-inch Boa sold together, can push toward $100,000. By 2027, a single excellent condition Boa could easily hit the $45,000 to $55,000 mark as ultra-wealthy collectors scramble to complete their collections. If you own a Colt Boa, you are holding a piece of finite history. The market knows it, and the aggressive auction results prove it. Number 2, Colt Python. The Python is the most famous and universally desired Colt snake gun ever created. Introduced in 1955, Colt designated it as their premium, flagship revolver. They famously marketed it as the Rolls-Royce of revolvers, and the craftsmanship backed up the claim. Every vintage Python was meticulously hand-fitted by master gunsmiths, featuring a legendary leaf spring action, a perfectly timed cylinder, a hollow underlug in the early years, and the breathtaking mirror-like royal blue finish. For nearly 50 years, the Python was the ultimate status symbol for discerning shooters and law enforcement professionals alike. It was the gun you saved your entire life to buy, and the gun you handed down to the next generation. Right now, early production Pythons from the 1950s and 1960s command prices ranging from $4,000 to $15,000, depending heavily on the specific year, barrel length, and condition. But that baseline is just the beginning. A pristine 1955 Python, the absolute first year of production, characterized by fully checkered walnut grips and a hollow barrel lug, can easily fetch $25,000 or more at premier auctions. Similarly, the ultra-rare 3-inch barrel combat pythons or the limited 1989 Snake Eyes edition, a matching set of 500, routinely cross the $30,000 threshold. While Colt successfully revived the Python in 2020 with a modernized, simplified action that sells for around $1,500 new, the modern guns have completely separate market dynamics. The true explosive investment value remains locked firmly inside the original hand-fitted vintage models. Over the last 8 years, high-condition early Pythons have nearly doubled in auction value. Collectors deeply understand that the original Pythons represent a specific, unrepeatable moment in American firearms history when Colt prioritized uncompromising, hand-tuned perfection over mass production cost savings. By 2027, a highly graded original box 1960s Python could easily sit in the $18,000 to $25,000 range, while first-year 1955 models will continue to break records. The vintage Python is the absolute foundation of the modern snake gun boom. Every other model on this list climbs in value largely because the Python climbed first and pulled the entire market up with it. Number 1. Colt Single Action Army, first generation. Finally, we arrive at the gun that started it all, the revolver that literally built the American frontier, the legendary Colt Single Action Army. In May 2025, an engraved SAA known as Black Beauty sold for $1.645 million. That specific gun was customized by Louis D. Nimschke, the greatest firearms engraver in American history, for Mexican President Manuel Gonzalez. It stands as a testament to ultimate rarity. However, Black Beauty is not the only SAA commanding life-changing money. The first-generation single-action Army revolvers, specifically those manufactured between 1873 and the beginning of World War II in 1940, are recognized globally as the rarest, most historically significant, and most valuable Colt firearms in existence. Right now, a standard, authentic first-generation SAA in functional condition runs between $3,000 and $6,000, depending on the exact year, the caliber, and the barrel length. But that is merely the entry fee. The market meticulously divides these guns into the early black powder frames, pre-1896, utilizing a screw to retain the cylinder pin, and the later smokeless frames. A truly excellent first-generation model featuring matched serial numbers, original gutta percha or walnut grips, and a beautiful untouched patina can easily hit $10,000. Exceptional examples: United States Cavalry inspected models with O.W. Ainsworth cartouches, ultra-rare calibers, or guns shipped to historical figures regularly sit in the $20,000 to $75,000 range. What truly drives first-generation SAA prices is rock-solid documentation and factory originality. An SAA, accompanied by a Colt archive letter detailing its original shipping destination in the 1880s, is worth significantly more than an undocumented gun. The market values these firearms based on their direct connection to history. They are genuine artifacts of the Wild West. Collectors understand that Colt only manufactured the first generation for 67 years, and the vast majority were ridden hard, destroyed, or heavily modified. The surviving original examples are rapidly becoming untouchable museum pieces. By 2027, a standard quality first-generation SAA in excellent condition will easily command $7,000 to $10,000. Documented guns with rich provenance will comfortably push into the $30,000 to $50,000 tier. And if you happen to possess a true master-engraved collector specimen, the sky is the absolute limit, as the recent Black Beauty $1 million sale definitively proved. The single-action Army represents the absolute pinnacle of 19th century Colt craftsmanship, and every authentic first-generation model carries a highly lucrative piece of that eternal American legacy. The bottom line: the entire vintage Colt ecosystem is moving upward rapidly. This isn't isolated to one model. The entire historical lineup is climbing together. First Issue Cobras, Diamondbacks, V-frame King Cobras, and MM-frame Anacondas are appreciating fast. The ultra-rare Boas are skyrocketing, while vintage Pythons and first-generation single-action armies pull the high-end market to new heights. In 2025, auction houses like Rock Island achieved record-breaking sales as collectors shifted millions into vintage firearms as alternative investments. Unlike modern guns that depreciate with use, collectible discontinued Colts follow different economic rules. They are becoming rarer daily as supply moves from casual shooters into locked, climate-controlled safes. As investors recognize their historical value and finite supply, prices will escalate. By 2027, every vintage gun on this list will be worth considerably more. This isn't speculation. It's what hard market data and auction records definitively prove. The question isn't whether they will be worth more, but how much. That total depends on condition, documentation, and market scarcity. Colt built these legendary revolvers to last forever. Now the global investment market is finally catching up to their true worth.